All right, the live button has been pushed. Welcome, everybody. Phil Nagy on Sports, joined as always by Kit on the left coast. It is the eve of the Browns' first playoff game since 2002. At this point, we're just playing with house money. I mean, no one expected, well, maybe some people expected. I don't know if I could have expected a playoff run already in this first year, and they've overcome so much, and they're going to obviously have to overcome a lot more again tomorrow, as many of us know. But there is a path to victory. I'm confident. But let's go ahead and get to those keys, Kit, for the offensive side of the ball.
All righty. Well, so if we're on the offensive side here, it's going to kind of start with we all are aware that we're going to miss Batonio here. He's going to be a big hole in that offensive line. So we're going to need to mitigate that as much as we can. And that's going to come through game plan and how we're going to match up Hayward. Does that mean we're going to shift protections in his direction to help out whoever the guard is? If that's done, I think that's who they've talked about starting in his place. But it's that kind of that next man up mentality we've been doing, all year. So hopefully that'll work out for us in this one. But game planning to help, especially with the run game. And I think you're going to see a lot of the run game go to the other side. Wills has struggled in the run blocking. Who knows what Dunn will be. But we know we can run behind Teller, and we know we can run behind Conklin. So hopefully that'll work out for us. Next key here is going to be kind of the situational football. I think that's something that we might very well see. Not that I don't trust Prefer in this situation. I think he's going to do a good job for us. But that's something that I think that Kevin Stefanski has been absolutely on point throughout the season. He's been great in the situational football. I know they're going to be overly prepared for that, but there's always something you're not expecting in games like this, especially playoff games. So you never know what might be the case, and hopefully that works out well for us in this game. But I think that's going to be paramount in this game is how do we, react in important situations in the situational football game.
For sure.
The next one is going to be kind of a rhythm of play calls. They're going to have a plan, but not having your primary guy that you're used to calling the plays out there and getting in a rhythm with the offense. That comes down to when do you just because you have your scripted plays and the plays that you plan, game plan you going into the game. It's when do you call them? How do you get your offense into a rhythm? Stefanski's been great at that. In fact, we saw that in this last game where he's calling plays that nobody expects, like that little end around from Landry to score the touchdown. Nobody saw that coming, and it's an easy touchdown. That's what Kevin Stefanski brings to you. And if we can get into that rhythm and call in those key plays at the right moment, that could be really big for us. Hopefully we kind of have a seamless transition with that rhythm for the play calls. We'll see how it goes.
For sure.
The last piece here is really going to be, punch the D in the mouth early, rush to open up the playbook as much as we can and to control the clock. That's really where the Steelers are vulnerable. Losing Bud Dupree is a big part of that, as well as I think they may have Spillane back, but Bush being out. Those linebackers have been a big part of why they were so good in the run defense for the first half of the season. And then Dupree and then their linebackers going out really took away from that for them. So I see that as being a good opportunity for us to really set the tone in this one early. And if we can do that, that's very much to our advantage.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you on all of those things. I'm just very curious to see or hear. I'm sure someone will ask him after the game, like, how much of a difference is there here in AVP in your head versus here in Stefanski, like you have all year. So we'll see. No excuses. They're certainly not going to make any excuses. I know that.
Right.
All right. Well, we got some good news on the defensive side of the ball today. Smith is back. Goodson came back yesterday. Harrison's going to be back. Holding our breath on maybe Money Mitch, maybe Denzel, depending on what shakes down. I know there are weird rules about it, like today was the last day of testing, but I think Denzel will test tomorrow because it's his 10th day when he would be allowed to come back. So there's still maybe a small chance that he gets in there. But what about on the defensive side of the football for a Browns victory?
Yeah, a couple things on that. You mentioned a lot of the folks coming back. Money Mitch sounded like he was a false positive along with Harrison, so he should play, which is really good for us. It looked like we could have been really thin on the in the secondary. So luckily, at least he should be out there. Fingers crossed on Ward. They've already reported him as being out, but we'll see how that actually pans out if they do day of. The nice thing of this one being the late game, maybe there's a chance. So we'll see on that.
That's true.
They did have a report of individuals such as Conklin driving individually to the game. So they didn't report who all those were. So maybe some of those guys could be included in that, but we'll see. We'll find out more tomorrow. Anyway, so into the defensive keys here. It's really going to start with tackling. Tackling is going to be an absolute must in this game. That's really where, especially when you have a Big Ben-led offense, you see a lot of the short throws and then relying on that yards after the catch, which those guys are really good at. If we can mitigate that by having solid tackling, then their little dink and dunk stuff is not going to be nearly as effective on us. It's not that Ben can't hit it deep. He just doesn't like taking the hits and taking the shots. So long as we're getting the pressure, he's more likely to be dumping it off short as a result if we're getting good pressure. And so long as our tackling is on point and kind of keeping everything in front of us, we should be in really good shape there. So that's going to be the first key. Next key is going to be kind of the same thing we've been doing all season long, but we really need to capitalize on the bend but don't break as much as we can all day. Whenever we can, preventing them from getting 7 and holding them to 3, or even not even getting the 3 to the 3 and outs or to force the punts. Those kinds of things are going to be really important for us. And the more that we can do that with our defense tomorrow is going to be to our advantage and play into our offensive strength in this one.
Absolutely.
Next key is going to be playing physical, punishing defense. This is an AFC North matchup in the playoffs. Win or go home. There's nothing better than that. This is where you see the truly physical. I mean, I think there's a big reason, not just the story, kind of storylines aside. There's a reason why this is the primetime matchup. AFC North, they leave it out on the field. This is especially with as good as the AFC North has been this year. This is an exciting game. So that's why we got the kind of primo position here in primetime Sunday night. So it should be a really exciting game for that, and I expect to see a lot of physical football being played, especially in the trenches. But if we can be doing that in our trenches, then that's going to be huge for us. And then that leads into the last key, which is really shutting down the rush game, because that's where the Steelers struggle when they can't get the rush going, which tends to be a lot. That's why they struggled, in the back half of the season, is because they just really got shut down in the running game. But if we can shut down their running game, that really hurts them, keeps them from being dynamic as an offense. Because if you can't run the ball, then a lot of the rest of your playbook isn't going to work nearly as well.
For sure. Well, and again, I don't know the time on it. I'm still waiting. Keith is watching on the stream now, and he says that Schefter has reported that Ward is cleared. So maybe even as we sit here, we got good news. So
that's awesome. Considering, not that I trust MKC's reporting per se, but she was saying definitely out. So it's good to hear. Good to hear that somebody in the know is saying that he might actually play for us. I was hoping that may work out for us.
Well, we all know she likes to create drama so that she can revel in it.
Yeah, indeed.
All right, you got a special teams key or two for this week?
I do. I have 3 today, actually, for the special teams. So I went all out on special teams. This is playoffs, so special teams are going to be a big part of this. So
that's right.
The first key on this one is going to be leaving no points on the field. Can't miss any points on special teams. No extra points, no field goals, whatever it is. Leave no points on the field. Second key is going to be, again, same key we've had every time, but you really have to do this in a game like this. You cannot have any penalties on special teams. Special teams penalties tend to be way more, as we have already kind of talked about, way more of a big deal when it comes to field position, because, you can take a 40-yard return, get a 10-yard penalty off of the 40-yard return. It's like a 50-yard field position, swap. So that's pretty ugly. So those can be huge. Those can be game killers. So you have to avoid them as much as possible. So we're looking to have none of those. And then the last piece of this is really going to be in the field position battle. As much as possible, we want to be winning that field position battle with our special teams, and that's going to be on Gillen having a great day punting and making sure that we're, obviously offense, defense have a big role to play in that as far as where do they end up with the ball, but then
Sure.
the special teams really have to follow through, and Gillen in particular follow through with making sure that whenever possible, we're putting them in the worst possible positions to start their drives. And another point to that, especially with this offense, the Steelers have not been great this year with driving the field. Where they've really succeeded is where their defense have set them up with turnovers, or their special teams have set them up with good field position, and then short field, they've been excellent. So if we can keep them in long drive, long field position setups, then we should be in really good position to capitalize in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think there's any chance the special teams, do they get a little boost or a little bump from seeing their coach as the top dog? Does that transfer over in any way? Like, I don't know.
Well, no, not specifically. Prefer I think works with everybody on this team, so I think it's, if anything, it's going to be kind of seamless for the whole team to have him. The guy's actually he's got a record with some comfortability with this team already. He's
Sure.
well established. He was one of the guys that was held over because he knew Kevin Stefanski back in his days with the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
They worked together and coached together for years, so they had some working relationship already established. And then plus Preef's already done this for when Coach Zimmer had to get emergency eye surgery. So he's been the head coach before in an emergency situation where he had to take over. And less notification, like I think he found out on a Wednesday that he was going to be coaching a Thursday night game. So that's it's something he's already done. This time he had a little bit more prep, and Kevin Stefanski was heavily involved all throughout the week to get ready, and that's the guy that leaves no details to chance. He's going to over prepare because that's just who he is, and that's great for us. But I also think too that Preef's a leader. He went to the Naval Academy, so he definitely knows what leadership is. He was a helicopter driver. The guy's got experience when it comes to the leadership, and I think he knows what to do with the team, and I think he knows how to lead them. So I think that's going to be important for just making this kind of a seamless transition to Preef on Sunday.
Gotcha. You answered way more questions. I was just thinking about the special, do you think the actual special teams unit plays any harder or cleaner because it's like, hey, Preef's got to do these other things. Like, let's make his job easy as the special teams guy.
Yeah, from that perspective, yeah, absolutely. I think there will be some element of that playing for Prefer, since it's kind of his big day in the regards of he's suddenly thrust into the spotlight as leading the team.
Sure. All right, overall keys to success, and then we got some questions.
Alrighty, so overall, it's going to start with the turnover battle. We have to at least draw even on the turnover battle, but preferably win the turnover battle. And then the other piece of that is to go into halftime with the lead. With those two things, if you listen to Nathan Zagura, this is absolutely the case. We're 10-0, 10-0 when we have those two things in our favor, and that's huge. I mean, we do not lose games when we're ahead at half, and we don't lose games when we're winning or at least even with the turnover battle. So that's going to be absolutely key for us to win this. If we can do hopefully both of those things, we should be in great shape to win this one. We're one of the best teams in the NFL when it comes to holding on to a lead, and we've done that against all kinds of different teams, both the teams we should beat and the teams that some people thought that maybe we would be losing to, that we went out and beat anyway. So, and then the last key here for the overall is really I kind of termed this in the old classic win one for the Gipper, but this is the opportunity for us to go out and we're missing some folks, especially Batonio, that kind of longest tenured Brown, our head coach, who really brought this culture here. Some of the guys that we'd love to have in this experience are not going to be available at the game. So this is the opportunity, I think, for this team to really rally behind that, be seen. Baker loves being the underdog. This team thrives in that position. And I think that this is a great opportunity for them to really rally behind that and just come out here and punch the Steelers in the mouth.
For sure. Oh, that'd be awesome. It's not quite. It didn't roll off the tongue quite like Gipper, right? We went from
Right.
the Stefanski or
Just win one for Petonio, but
that's right.
however,
That works. That works. That's right. That's right. Win for Petoni. Win for Joel. So,
that's right.
all right. Keith's got a couple of questions here. What are your thoughts about Chubb and Hunt in the backfield at the same time? We've only seen it very, very sparingly so far.
So I know there's been a lot of call for that, and I think it can be used to advantage in that you can definitely win create some nice matchups doing that. In fact, we've seen some interesting things from them doing stuff like putting Landry in as a running back, and then running a route out of the backfield, and some other stuff that they've done in the matchup games. And I think it can be advantageous. What I would say about that, however, is that the way that they are utilizing Chubb and Hunt kind of at a drive-by-drive basis, or as the third down running back, they've really used that to great advantage in that you have two very fresh backs throughout an entire game, and both of them are just as dangerous, especially when Hunt. Although you don't run him quite as much, you use him a little bit more in the passing game, a little bit more of the screen game with Hunt, a little bit more of the dump off game. But they're both yardage wise remarkably similar in their production, both in touchdowns this season and in yardage this season. If you add up their passing and or receiving and rushing yardage, they're almost identical, and then touchdowns also.
Yes, I agree. Obviously having Harrison back and hopefully Denzel in some capacity, and the linebackers and stuff help. But Mason Rudolph threw for over 300 on us last week. Like, they have such explosive receivers, and they have been struggling to run the ball. And I just have visions of Ben like dropping 400 on it. Like, how do we slow down the passing game?
So I think there's a couple of things at play here. First of all, you have to remember that Mason Rudolph is not Ben Roethlisberger. They're not the same. Mason Rudolph is a lot more willing to do some of the things that make them successful in those type of situations. Not that Ben can't put the ball there, but he's a lot less willing to especially in the play action game. He does not like turning his back to the defense. And as an older quarterback, he doesn't like taking the hits, which tends to happen more if you're turning your back to the, because you can't see the guys coming at you. So he's less willing to do that. This team likes to call play action, but not with Big Ben, because he doesn't want to run those plays as much. So those kind of plays that are the shot plays, the play action shot plays that really were successful for Mason Rudolph, because he's willing to do those. You're probably not going to see nearly as much of that from Big Ben. Not saying he can't put it down the field, just that if we are getting the pressure on him in particular, Mason Rudolph, the difference there is he's more likely to make something happen out of a play by scrambling or producing something out of a play that's the pocket starting to collapse, whereas Big Ben is more likely to dump it off sooner and just forget the things downfield, trying to make the shot plays happen. So I think that if we're getting the good pressure, which we actually had pretty good pressure on Mason Rudolph in that game, if we're able to do so in this game, especially since the reports are saying that Miles has been feeling really good in practice this week, and hopefully he's kind of back to his game wrecker mode. If that's the case, Big Ben might just be dumping it off, pretty much all game long, just to avoid the shots, because older quarterbacks like that don't like taking the hits.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Another question coming. Surprise breakout player tomorrow.
Well, if I knew, it wouldn't be a surprise.
Fair point.
But
maybe just not Baker or Chubb.
Right,
like, who's
right.
an unknown name that might show up and wow us all.
So I'm actually going to go with Robert Jackson. If he sees the field and we don't see Money Mitch, I think he's going to have a good game. He was actually in really good coverage throughout the game against some really good receivers. I mean, let's be honest, Claypool is a monster and very physical.
Yes.
But he was actually in really good position in the coverage, and all of those, even those receptions for 40 plus yards, he was in great position in all of them. and he did as much as Money Mitch was doing. So if we see Robert Jackson, I expect him to have another big game, a good game for us again. And he was actually, especially if we get into the kind of the dink and dunk, the shorter pass game with Ben Roethlisberger back there, because Robert Jackson was showing a lot of physicality and good tackling, and he was with the shorter stuff. He was actually playing really well up on the line, kind of that press corner role. He was doing a really nice job there. I was pretty impressed with that.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure I don't even remember what the sim score ended. 38-21 or something like that.
Yes, something like that.
Something
I remember
like that. It's okay. So our Nagy on Sports official score prediction for the wild card: Browns in the playoffs, first time since 2002. Let's go. What is it?
So the Browns finally get it done, Heinz Field, in a very tight battle, 27-24 Browns.
That would be awesome, and all it does is earn you a trip to Kansas City and Pat Mahomes, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Aren't we on the other side? I think we're on the other side, aren't we? I think it's the 4 and 5 versus Mahomes.
I think it's about the lowest remaining seed. So I think the Colts had to win for us to dodge them. So it's okay. It's all right. But we'll take it. Hey, we'll be fine. We'll be okay. And Stefanski would be back. But anyway, we're not gonna dare jinx ourselves by any way and talk about next week. So awesome. Well, appreciate everybody. Thanks for being on. Thanks, Keith, for some great questions today and watching with us. Everybody else is going to check it out later. Appreciate your support. Thanks, as always, to the subscribers. We love you guys, and we did it. We made it. We're here. The Browns are in the playoffs, and anything can happen in the playoffs. And we love our quarterback, especially when his back's against the wall, and his back is against the wall. There's literally nobody giving him a chance. And we like those odds. So we'll get out of here the way we always do by saying, go